Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to Main Character Syndrome. Before we dive back into the world of Navarre and the Empyrean series, I have a slight disclaimer. You may not know, but we do work full-time jobs, and so we batch record these episodes. What that means is we record multiple episodes in one sitting, and sometimes that puts us at the risk of technical difficulties. Unfortunately, the audio in these next few episodes is not as crisp and clear as it was in previous episodes, but bear with us, it's still great content. We still have a lot of fangirling about the world of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, and we hope you'll still join us even with the audio issues. Thank you so much for bearing with us, and we promise we will fix these issues in the future. To the readers who listen, enjoy the episode. Hey readers, welcome back to Main Character Syndrome. I'm your host, the redhead, with Danielle again. Hey Danielle.
Hi, glad to be back.
Good to have you back.
Excited to talk about Iron Flame.
So excited to talk about Iron Flame. You know, Fourth Wing has been my obsession for like the last probably year now since I read it last summer. Oh my gosh, this book had so many things.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly,
You did some
tabbed
note-taking.
so many things.
I kept them on my phone.
Yeah.
I would send myself a little text and I was like, make note of this. I can't believe I missed this the first time reading. So many signs, so much, foreshadowing to major mic drop moments.
So many clues in Fourth Wing and Iron Flame to the end of Iron Flame. So many things to anticipate for the next book. So let's kind of dive right in. So Iron Flame begins with Violet recovering after being attacked by Venom at the Battle of Ressen and finding out her brother Brennan is alive and Xaden is a part of the rebellion in Raisha.
Not rebellion.
Well, revolution. Right. The R word, the revolution, is different from the rebellion because they believe they're going to win.
They're going to win.
They have to, otherwise they die.
Exactly.
So what did you think?
About Iron Flame in general?
And we're going to talk about part one. So what do you think about part one so far?
Part one. I think there was a lot of build-up. Definitely the difference between part one, part two, is part two is like all action. Part one, a lot of build-up, a lot of good character development, and it was really exciting. Like kept you on your toes still most of the time.
It definitely did. There was a lot more world building in this one. I feel like Fourth Wing was setting the scene, giving us the characters, and developing Xaden and Violet's relationship. In this one, they're apart most of the time, which I hate separation tropes personally, like when the main love interests are separated for unforeseen circumstances, but in this case it kind of worked.
I liked how it gave Violet the chance to get out of her shell a bit more and give her a little bit more of an individual personality. Not to say that she didn't have that in Fourth Wing, but I feel like you got to really know her outside of their relationship in the moments where they weren't together.
Yeah, there were a lot of times where Violet had to do things herself, and they're like, well, we can't go get Xaden because he's not here.
Yeah.
He's in Samara, which is the furthest outpost you could possibly get on the front lines.
And she really proves that she doesn't need him, she doesn't need anyone to kind of help her.
Yeah.
She makes her way on her own.
Yeah, there were a lot of good parts about this book. So let's start with, we found some new characters. Obviously, Brennan is alive.
What?
This is crazy.
Did you see it coming? I kind of saw it coming.
I kind of saw it coming when she mentioned her brother in Fourth Wing, and they didn't find his body, they didn't burn his body. I was like, oh, whenever, case in point, at the end of part one, whenever you don't see a body in a book, in a movie, they're most likely alive. Jack Barlow.
Wait, we haven't gotten to that part.
We will get to that first. But first, Brennan is alive. And he has led his whole family to believe he's been dead for 6 years.
Yeah, it's not cool.
Is it justified?
I don't think so. I don't know personally. Maybe it's because I am so close with my family and I've also been through family members' deaths. I know the grief that Violet went through, that Mira went through, even his parents, General Sorengale and Violet's dad. like, that is hard.
Yeah.
And I get it, it's fiction, so I'm like, you know, I'm trying to keep that in the back of my mind, but I'm like, ouch.
Oh no, this book made me feel so many things. What did you think about each different character's perspective and reaction to Brennan being alive? So Violet's was kind of like shock almost, because she's like, revenge tastes awfully, or rebellion or revolution tastes awfully sweet, because she's just munching on a biscuit. She's sitting across from her brother who's alive, that she just found out is alive after 6 years. Mira punches her straight in the face.
I think I would be more like Violet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like I imagine myself like this morning in that situation. I was like, I think I would just like collapse to my knees and cry. If a family member of mine was like actually alive out there.
I think
like,
General Sorrengail would have done that if she wasn't in front of like all of her cadre.
Yeah. I mean, but I totally get Mira punching him in the face. Because I'm like, you know, I would cry for that moment, but then I would be like, how dare you?
Yeah, I would be so angry.
Yeah. It was a funny moment, and definitely interesting to see how all of the different characters reacted to that.
Yeah. It was kind of fun to see. And Brennan deserved it, honestly. Like, yes, I understand you're trying to protect a movement, you know what's out there, yada yada, but also, like, Violet is your sister, so is Mira, that you love dearly. Like, you may have, you know, your thoughts about General Sorrengail, but Mira and Violet are your beloved sisters. Like, how can you let your family believe that you're dead?
Yeah, especially because Violet says about how Mira and Brennan were so close and such like a tight-knit pair.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine doing that to my family, my sisters.
And he does have some good character growth in the book, but bottom line, don't
pretend you're dead.
Don't pretend you're dead. Okay, Sloane.
She drives me nuts. She has good character development throughout the book, but at first, I hate her.
Yeah,
she's
kind of a prissy little teen, like, you killed my brother, which, I mean, if I thought someone killed my brother or was the reason he was dead, I'd have a little bit of animosity, but she straight up hates Violet.
Yeah. Violet did not kill Liam. And so she's just hearing what others have told her, and she just is so adamant about it. And it's not Violet's fault. And it's mentioned in the book, Violet actually saved Liam in a prior experience where they stopped time and caught him before he hit the ground when he fell off this dragon. So it's like, she saved him before.
Yeah. It was the dragon that died that killed Liam.
Yeah.
And it was the venom that killed Liam. But both Violet and Xaden blame themselves because he was protecting Violet to his last breath.
Yeah. So I think Sloane I get it, grief is hard, but get over it. This girl obviously cares a lot about you, and she made this promise to your brother. Obviously, Liam believed in Violet and trusted her with Sloane's life, so she kind of needs to factor that in. And it's like, well, obviously my brother trusted her if he had her make this promise to him.
Yeah. And the way that Violet goes about protecting Sloane is actually really humorous because she poisons her opponent.
Yeah. But not just her opponent, like the entire wing.
Yeah, the whole wing, because she doesn't know who's going to eat the tart.
Yeah.
So she poisons the whole thing. But then it's the powder that she has in her hand that just like coughs and goes into that opponent's face that makes her delirious, acts like she's drunk, and then Sloane gets the upper hand, which she thinks that she wins fair and square. She's like, I won that challenge. And Violet's like, no, you didn't.
No, you didn't, girlfriend. You have noodle arms just like me.
Same girl, I could not. Okay. Jack Barlow is alive. What did you think?
I think when I first read it, I think I was actually really surprised.
The fact that Jack Barlow is alive and that Nolan has been mending him. I mean, there were signs that, you know, they were guarding the infirmary. Nolan was looking like absolute crap. Like, he was skinny, he was tired, like, you looked like the life was drained out of him. And he was mending something. Who would have thought it would be Jack Barlow?
Jack Barlow. And why? Well, I think that's the big question.
Yeah.
Why did they want to?
Right.
And so I get that they were trying to maybe find a way to find an antidote, kind of, to fix venom. But why him? And why bring him back?
Yeah,
And
that's the
put him
question.
back in the class when they knew that they couldn't fix him.
Yeah, why just Jack Barlow? Why not any other cadet that's ever died in the quadrant?
Especially one that hasn't tried to kill General Sorengill's daughter.
Yeah.
And have it out for her.
I think maybe that was Varish's plan.
True.
Who knows? Okay, General Sorengill. So, in the beginning of Iron Flame, she has no idea that Violet's been sent to Athben or on the front lines to go into combat as a first year. She is so angry. This is where we see her motherly instincts come out, and that she actually cares about her daughter.
Yeah, the first part of it, and you're like, oh, okay, wait, maybe she has a heart.
Yeah, maybe you're not the POS that we thought you were.
Yeah.
The neglectful mother. There are a lot of things that are revealed, including the deal she made with Xaden to keep Violet alive.
Yeah.
And that was revealed right in the beginning of the book when Xaden is talking to the assembly and is like, I alone am responsible for Violet. And then Imogen pops in with like, yeah, as brutal of a cultural thing as it was. And that kind of went in my head and I was like, oh my gosh, they're talking about the deal that Xaden made with his mother when she cut into his skin.
Well, do you also think, the way I took it was he made that deal for her life as well, though, with the revolution. So he was like, I'm vouching for her now. So the people, other court people from the revolution, I thought cut that mark above his heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah, because she never explains what it is.
Yeah.
So maybe it's another thing to vouch for Violet. That is interesting. General Sorengil, I don't hate as much in this book as I did in Fourth Wing.
No, she really comes out of her shell. She has a lot of really, you're a terrible mom moment, but then she has the biggest comeback in part 2.
Yeah, she really does, and we'll get to that in part 2. But her mom instincts come out, and she's a little spicy too, like Violet, where she's like, tell me again that a Sorengil is untrustworthy or lying.
Yeah.
And
you're trying to insinuate that a Sorengil would lie or something.
Yeah. And then she sends Atos to like the furthest outpost.
Yeah.
It's just justice at that point. We are introduced to Cat Catriona.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this character. Who would have thought that Xaden had an ex that was almost as spicy as Violet?
Yeah. I don't know. I picture her being like the hottest girl in every room. I don't know. That's just me when I picture her. I'm like, yeah, I think because Violet feels a bit insecure at times, whether, she has that little inkling and then Kat amplifies that inkling of insecurity. So I'm like, okay, this girl has to be so hot, but she's also a baddie.
Yeah. And
she's... I hate her at first, and then you kind of grow to respect her.
Yeah, she's a character you kind of love to hate. Auric was another character that we were introduced to that turns out he's Prince Cam of Navarre.
Love him. Absolutely love him.
Yeah, he's kind of a cinnamon roll too, but a very strong cinnamon roll.
You think him and Kat would be a good couple?
Ooh, I ship it. That would be fun.
She wants to be on the throne.
Yeah.
But, he's not next in line for the throne, but...
Kat doesn't want love, though. She wants power.
Yeah.
It's pretty evident. But Auric is a very pivotal character in the end of part 1, where he is the only royal that can go into the archives and go into the royal ward, I guess. The ward that is around the journals that they need for the wards.
And he knows about the venom. And he has the courage to break away and realize... not follow the grain. He's like, I'm breaking away, and I know this is wrong, and I want to fight.
He's a great character. I was really happy when we were introduced to him. Jacinia. She has some character growth.
Yeah, I like her too. She's an interesting character. Obviously, she's so smart, and she also has a good heart, and you can tell by obviously her not turning Violet in all of those times, but she recognizes what's right, what's wrong, and she's a good person to lead him through.
And she's smart. She's not stupid. She knows that something is going on.
She picks up on that fast.
Yes, very, very fast.
She was like, I knew there wasn't a debate, Violet.
My favorite part, too, with Jasenia is that Sawyer has this little crush on her.
Yes.
He's so cute.
I said it in one of the prior episodes. I love Sawyer. I think that he would be my boyfriend.
IRL.
In real life, he would totally be my boyfriend.
Okay, Rhiannon. She's now a squad leader, and even though this is a difference between Rhiannon as a squad leader and Dane as a squad leader, Rhiannon is willing to turn away when Violet's doing things like poisoning Sloane's opponent, or when she's kind of sneaking around, or when she knows that Violet is not being truthful, but she's still going to help her no matter what.
Yeah, she's the opposite of Dane in Fourth Wing, where you're like, okay, this is what a good leader actually looks like. Like, recognizes that there are rules, but sometimes you have to break them, and she rides that line a lot.
Yeah. Professor Grady. So we're introduced to Professor Grady with the Rider Survival Course, which is basically torture.
Yeah, it was hard. That was a hard part to get through.
It was kind of interesting when we saw Professor Grady introduced, because he's like, hey, I'm Captain or Professor, and it's like, okay, what's your backstory, sir? Like, why did we get that, Rebecca? Why did you write that? Because I feel like that might come back.
What about a spinoff?
What about a spinoff? I don't know. Maybe kind of fun. Professor De Vera also has a lot of character growth and ends up being on the side of Erasure.
Yeah, that was a really cool thing to see, where Violet's like, please be the person who I think you are. And teasing into part 2, you learn that she's the one that put out the leaflets in the classroom. And I was like, whoa, I didn't see that coming.
No, I didn't either. I thought it would be like one of the marked ones or something, or even maybe Auric. But never would I have thought it would have been a professor.
Yeah.
Okay. Vice Commandant Varish.
I think he's a Venom.
Yeah, you think he's a Venom?
I truly think he is, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I am, but I'm pretty sure in the book it said somewhere where like Violet looked in his eyes and she saw like red.
That would be something to look back into. I need to reread it now again, even though I've reread it like 4 times. That's the thing about this book. You can reread it and you find something different every time.
Yeah, I feel like I was trying this time to find proof that he was a Venom, and it felt like it the whole time. I was like, you are a Venom, and I want you dead.
It would make sense.
And he was killed with an alloy dagger.
That's also
and
true.
And it was noted that it was an alloy dagger that stabbed him.
That is interesting, because not only could he be Venom, he saved Jack Barlow, who in part 2 we find out is Venom. And this is now I'm like, wow.
I think he's a sage. So I think he was Jack's teacher. And
interesting.
I think that he helped teach Jack how to bring the wards down. This is just like me spitting off right now.
I mean, you never know. I mean, it all makes sense to me.
But with the journal, he took the journal back when Violet stole it. And so I'm like, okay, now he had access to this. He did not have access to that journal before Violet took it, because he didn't have someone from royal blood to get him in there. So then he saw that, and I'm like, okay, maybe he could understand it a bit better than them and learn potentially how to take down the wards. And told Jack kind of took over that role once he was killed.
I do agree with the Venom theory. However, I don't know if he's a sage, because the sage already knows about Erasure. And Varish was very adamant in getting Dane to tell them where the army is.
Yeah.
So I think there's a Venom thread, there's a Venom connection there that I'm excited to see if anything comes out in book 3. Viscount Takaris is a character that we find out is kind of a snake.
Yeah.
So
He is the one that wanted Xaden and Kat to be betrothed in order to get this luminary, which basically makes dragonfire hot enough to smelt the alloy that they use for the wards. And he wants Violet to wield her signet in order for them to get that luminary as like the second deal. So Violet's all for it.
Well, he says just for negotiations. He comes back with that and he goes, oh, I said I would open negotiations.
Yes.
And Xaden was like, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, I'm going to kill you. And then we find in part 2 that his intentions are definitely not what they thought. Okay, and then in the first part of Iron Flame, Colonel Atos may be gone, but he has set this whole thing in motion where secrets die with the people who keep them.
Yeah.
And we have so many people targeting our poor friends from the Battle of Resin. We've got someone targeting Violet. We've got people targeting Bodhi and Garrick and Imogen. And then we have the 3 riders that we don't really know very well, Kieran, Aya, and Mason. And they're the ones that actually get killed.
And I was sad when they were killed, but I was also glad that we didn't know them.
Yeah,
because a lot of people are killed in this book.
Yes. I think Rebecca did it that way to maybe save our hearts and our emotions, because the end of part 2 just destroyed it.
Just destroyed you. The interrogation scene destroyed me.
Destroyed. Yeah, let's talk about our thoughts and feelings on that interrogation scene, because Liam is back.
As soon as Liam comes back, I started bawling.
Oh.
Like, I am bawling when Liam's there. And I wrote down the quote that I started actually sobbing. And I'm like, Danielle, this is a book.
It's just a book.
But he said, you're staying strong. I'm so proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm done. I can't. If I was Violet, I would have just completely broken down. Yes. I mean, she was breaking, but not giving in to revealing any of the secrets. But, oh gosh.
I think that's why, Rebecca had this thing where she has this connective tissue disorder because she's used to pain. And so she can withstand this torture, because even in her first interrogation scene, Varish is like, have they broken yet? No. Well, they usually break by now, don't they? Yeah. And Violet is still standing.
Yeah.
So I think her ability to, she even says in the book, she compartmentalizes that pain. She kind of goes outside of herself when things are happening to her, and she's able to do that. I think I could never.
Mm-hmm.
I could never. I would break right away.
Yeah, and having Liam there, like being so close to not breaking obviously the secrets, but just like in general going through this torture, having Liam there was such a key role. And I think that was amazing writing by Rebecca Yarros.
Yes.
And I was really put in that chair. I was Violet in that scene, and I could feel Liam and the emotion, and it was hard.
It was, especially when Dane is there and he shows up and he's about to see into her memories and he has a knife to her throat. Liam is like, I'm here. I am with you. I will not leave you alone.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, the waterworks that just happened right afterwards was just like, oh, Liam, you're still my cinnamon roll.
I know. But
it's also like, that is the pivotal moment where Violet is completely alone, and that's where she needs someone like Liam to tell her to keep going. I don't know if she would have if Liam wasn't there.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
Because he was constantly like, you're okay, don't give in, he's trying to bait you. Oh, that scene was just, oh my goodness.
I will say Violet was very clever though during interrogation. Her responses were so well thought out, even after having been beaten and hurting, and her face is all busted up, and when she gets out of there, everyone's like, ugh.
Yeah.
But her responses, because she couldn't lie.
Right.
So she told the truth about everything, and I was like, that is so clever.
She was so smart during that, and I think that's where Xaden's selective truths training came through, and she was like, okay, I can tell the truth in different aspects. So Varish is like, did you steal the journals? Who helped you? And she's like, I alone put those journals in this bag.
Yeah. She doesn't rat anyone out.
No.
She's not a snitch.
No, and she doesn't break, which is huge. I could never. Speaking of selective truths, let's talk about the impasse through the entire book that made me so frustrated with Xaden and Violet. Violet wants full disclosure, and Xaden can't give it.
No, he can't.
Mm-mm.
But I get it. I was totally team Xaden in this,
Mm-hmm.
where I was just like, every relationship has, maybe not necessarily like full secrets,
Mm-hmm.
but like you need to keep some things to yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
Everyone has that in friendships, in relationships. So, and this wasn't a little thing to keep either.
Right.
He is not just keeping a secret from Violet, but he is protecting thousands, hundreds of people, really. And he had to. He didn't know that he could really trust Violet.
Right, and
necessarily.
case in point, Dane took her memories, and that's how the Battle of Ressen began.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wouldn't have happened. They would have just done war games if she was able to shield him out.
Yeah, immediately the revolution would have been over in an instant
Mm-hmm.
had he told her. And so when she's all mad about it, and she was like, he keeps things from me. It's like, because sometimes you have to do that.
Mm-hmm. And I get the whole why he didn't say I love you in Fourth Wing was because he was keeping this secret from her, this huge secret, 2 secrets actually. Not only was he part of the revolution, but he was also keeping the secret that her brother is not dead.
Yeah, that's not his secret to tell.
It's not his secret to tell, but I think he may have felt guilty and like, there's so much you don't know about me that I want you to know before I say those words.
Yeah.
Which, good writing, Rebecca.
Mm-hmm.
But Violet soon realizes that what she's doing to her squad is the exact same thing that Xaden is doing to her.
Exact same thing. So I was like, don't be a hypocrite, Violet. Like, you're doing the same exact thing as him, and you're justifying it.
Mhm.
So put on your big girl panties, suck it up,
Mm-hmm.
and realize that sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta keep your secrets. I mean, she had secrets of her own as well, and some of them she, purposely had because she wanted to have a secret between her and Xaden because he was keeping all of these secrets from her. In her defense, at the end of Fourth Wing, he did say he would tell her everything she wanted to know and everything that she didn't. But then he goes, I'll tell you everything about me, and kind of backpedals from that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, bro, don't say something if you don't mean that you're going to do it just because the girl is dying.
Yeah, his wording was poor.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, he can't tell secrets that aren't his to tell.
Correct.
So, and he has to protect the lives of everyone in the revolution.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know. Their relationship kind of just, I get that, like, character development. Violet had a lot of good character development, and so did Xaden. I feel like they say it a lot in the book, too. They switch roles.
Yeah, I felt that, and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I was like, I felt like Xaden was starting to act a little bit like a baby sometimes.
Yeah. Like, I just want you to love me. I just want those 3 words. That's what, like...
He was a pick-me girl.
He was a pick-me girl, and he's like, I want those 3 words back, which, like, I understand, but the words that he just constantly says this phrase over and over again, I want those 3 words. Are you going to say those 3 little words? And then I'll kiss you, and then we can do things. And then Violet's like, not until you give me full disclosure. And it's like, this boy is like one of the heads of the revolution. He can't give you full disclosure.
Yeah.
That's not his disclosure to give you.
Mm-hmm.
But you can ask questions. His question game, though, he was setting her up to fail most of the time with, like, ask me these questions. How is she supposed to know
what to
the
ask.
questions to ask if he doesn't give her any inkling about what it's about? Like, Takaris and, like, wanting her to wield lightning, she had no idea. She couldn't decide that for herself, like, whether that's a risk she wanted to take or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I don't know. I see both sides, but...
I mean, yeah, Xaden was in the wrong in some occasions.
Yeah.
But I think, we get a lot of Violet. We get a lot of her insight, obviously, because she's the main character in the book.
Yeah.
And so I was like, Violet, stop being annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Get over it. Life's too short.
It's too short.
Kiss
Just
some-
say I love you. Kiss the man. Like, he's hot.
Yeah.
Climbing like a tree. And she does. The shower scene. So this is where, like, yes, they're mad at each other. Yes, Violet's mad at him. But the instant that she hears that he has been hurt, She gets on her dragon and goes no matter what. She doesn't get leave,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's part of her dragon's motions, but she can blame the dragon all she wants. She knows that she wanted to see Xaden.
Yeah.
She could have, I mean, yeah, the dragon probably has more emotions over you and more control over your emotions at that point as a second year. But I feel like she could have been like, no, we shouldn't go. She never said we shouldn't go at all. She said, Taryn, let's go.
Yeah. I think that Tan was totally overpowering her emotions, but she wanted to do that anyways.
Yeah.
So it was heightened, almost kind of like what Kat does.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like heightened that emotion that's already there.
Mm-hmm.
I also made note when that whole scene ended, I felt after this that there was no question that if Sigale or Tan dies, the other dies and they all die. So I think this was like the scene where it was like, they're like, well, it's a theory we're not going to test. We don't want to test. And I was like, this proves that if one of them dies, the other dies, because Tan is so heartbroken. He is like, I have to go. I have to make sure my baby's okay.
Yeah.
And
which is so sweet with the dragons too.
it was. I imagined like this reunion of them like cuddling. This is so weird. I'm like imagining these fictional dragons like cuddling and it being like such a sweet reunion. Like I was so worried about you.
Aww.
I wanted that.
I wanted
Rebecca,
that too.
I wanted to know Tan and Sigale. I hope that in the next book we get more dialogue from them too.
That would be great. Or even like a bonus scene from Taryn's perspective.
Yes.
That would be a little treat. I also want a little bit more from Xaden's perspective through this entire thing because like even through the cat scenes or, you know, his fight with Violet where in the shower scene, neither of them kind of come to an agreement, but they both agree that if the other was hurt, they would be just as reckless for each other.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't wait to hear the proof. They wouldn't wait to hear what happened. They would just go because they love them.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of times where I wrote like, I tabbed a lot of heartbreaking scenes because there's a lot of times where he's like, you love me. He's reminding himself and it's sad to see.
Yeah. And he can also, never mind, I'm not going to tease into part 2. But yeah, he's reminding himself and I think, I mean, we do that in real life. We have insecurities and I think he kind of showed some of them in this book.
And Darna, let's go into her.
Whoa.
So she's not so little anymore. She's not a little feather tail anymore.
No, she is not.
She's a big dragon and she needs to stay in this dreamless sleep. But she looks like a black dragon. She looks like she might be Taryn and Sigale's, but Taryn's like, nope. She's not my progeny, I told you that. But Violet describes her as like the color black, but if you look at it in a light, it almost looks purple or iridescent.
Correct.
It's like a lot of times she is reflecting her environment.
Yeah.
This plays a lot into part 2. And I was just kind of like,
There were a lot that this was an example of a lot of foreshadowing that when you first read it, you may miss out on.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, this is just like really good, creative visual writing.
right, it would
By
just go right
Rebecca.
over your head.
And then you're like, nope, it's not.
Nope.
It is just right there in your face. Like the signs are all there for a big, oh my goodness moment where you're like, the one.
Well, and Varish is so obsessed with Andarna, and that's what causes most of their problems is Violet's constantly like, humans don't demand anything from dragons. Dragons are the superior species. They do what they want. If Andarna doesn't want to be a part of flight maneuvers, she doesn't have to be. And this is where, like, Taryn could eat Varish or Solus at any point, and he does. Eventually, he gets sick of it. He's fed up. But Varish pushes Violet to burnout.
Yeah, he wants to kill her.
He wants to kill her. You know that instantly. Like, as soon as Atos introduces Varish, you know he's the villain.
Correct.
Varish kind of gave me, like, Umbridge vibes from Harry Potter.
Yes.
Like,
that's
I
a good
hated
tie.
him instantly.
Yeah. You knew he was going to be the new villain taking over for Atos. But then they also, leading off the chapter, talk about how he was put on this duty because he was removed from a role because he interrogated people to death.
Yeah.
prior. So it's like,
Yeah.
great idea to put him with students.
Yeah, let's have this guy be head of, vice commandant at a college of like 20-year-olds.
Of students who don't know how to handle themselves when they're interrogated.
No
Sounds
kidding.
like a great idea.
He definitely was there for Violet and to ensure that she didn't make it out of interrogation.
Correct. Secrets die with those who
People
keep them.
who keep them, exactly. So I really want to see a little bit more development of like Atos and everything. Atos is still alive. He's just at a different outpost, so I feel like he might come back.
What if he's a Venom?
What if he's a Venom?
I don't know. I'm like looking at everyone now.
Yes.
I'm like, are you a Venom? Are you a Venom? Or are you just a regular villain?
Right, and we'll get into that in part 2. But there were so many things that were revealed in part 1. Jack Barlow was alive. General Sorrengail put the knife marks on Xaden. She admitted that. She made a deal with him to keep Violet alive, which did help her. So that, it really like, especially in the first part where Xaden was like, didn't kill her when she spied on their meeting.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of like a foreshadowing moment where it's like, why didn't you kill her? But we'll kind of get into that. Liam makes a heartbreaking appearance during the torture scene. Will we see more from him? Will we see him again?
I don't think so.
You think that was done?
I think that was the good, like, final goodbye moment for Liam.
I think it was.
Like, that was a great ending. Obviously, when he died originally,
Mm-hmm.
that was a really hard, but also a good goodbye.
Mhm.
Do you remember the quote he said?
It's been my honor.
Yeah,
Lives rent-free in my head.
exactly. And now this one where he was like, I'm so proud of you.
Yes.
I
I'm
was like,
here, Violet. I'm here. And interesting enough, like, he has a conversation with Violet, too, where it's like, I'll get into this when we talk more about signets, but it's almost like he knows what's happening. Like, Xaden is losing himself right now. Like, Violet's like, oh, he's ran away. He's okay. Like, he can continue with revolution. And Liam's like, you don't think that he's already losing himself right now? Like, he's not already, like, rallying the troops to come and save you?
Correct.
So it was almost like she was having a conversation with Liam as if he was there.
Was he?
Was he? Is that maybe part of a potential second signet that could be revealed in book 3? I don't know. We will talk about it. So that was part 1 of Iron Flame. That was a wild ride, to say the least. I'm really excited that Rebecca did divide this book into 2 parts because I really think that it needed to be.
Yeah, it could have been 3 books.
It could have been.
Well, really, I guess 2, dividing it between part 1 book, and this one being a second.
Mm-hmm.
But because there was so much still, I guess, action in the first,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get to part 2. But I'm glad we didn't have to wait.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, we have to wait for the next one. But it was a wild ride
Mm-hmm.
in just that first half.
Did you have a favorite part?
I don't know. Did you?
I had a favorite part, and it was at the end of the torture scene, but I'm a hopeless romantic when Xaden just kind of is like, you want to know something true, something real? I love you. I've been in love with you since the first time you kissed me and the snow fell in your hair. And it was just like, that is the moment that Violet has been waiting for, because this whole time she's like, he says he fell for me, but he's never said he loves me. And that's the moment where, like, they both realize that they could die at any moment. And they're like, let's not leave words unsaid.
Yeah.
And then Violet's like, I do love you. And he's like, glad you didn't forget.
Yeah. I'm glad that it wasn't as cheesy of, like, a moment.
Yeah.
I felt like the romance in this one was a lot less cheesy than a lot of other, like, romance fantasy books.
It was more realistic.
Correct.
In, like, different situations and how they would act and how they would get mad if you kept something from someone else, or if they went behind your back and decided to do something reckless or endanger their life to try to help you out. So, I don't know. I really like the relationship between Xaden and Violet. One thing we did not mention was Dane finally broke the rules.
Dane broke the rules?
Dane broke the rules!
Yeah. That was, like, peak character development. Him reading her mind.
Yeah.
And, I mean, but he went there. So he kind of fell into that, and you were like, no.
Well, Varish didn't make it easy on him either.
No, poor guy.
Varish is like, she's trying to take down the wards, and she has been against Navarre. She's been working with Xaden. He's been saying like things like, you can't help it who you fall in love with. And he really hit Dane at that point.
At the core.
Because I think he loved Violet.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I really think that, hit his ego, and he was like, she wasn't talking to him, and then he realized, this is why you don't want me to touch you, because you have something to hide.
But what did Varys think was going to happen? Like,
I don't think he thought that Violet would actually show him.
Yeah.
He underestimated Violet from day one.
Yeah.
That she was breakable, that she was, weak. And he even said that in interrogation, that, I was intending on seeing your weakness from day one, but you had your shields up.
Mm-hmm.
And now I find out who's your weakness. It's your friends. It's your loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were this breakable little thing, and I was wrong.
Yeah. But Dane, reading the mind at first, was like, no.
Mm-hmm.
And then for him to turn around and stab Varys.
Mm-hmm. The vice commandant.
And
it
was
even
like, you
says,
should have trusted me, Violet.
oh, what does it say? Like right before that happens in part 1. I'm looking through. It says like right before the chapter. The only crime worse than murdering a cadet is the unfathomable act of attacking leadership.
So Rulebreaker Dane.
Rulebreaker Dane breaks the number 1 rule in one of
Outside
the
of,
codex.
killing a dragon
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
He kills a leader.
He wounds a leader.
Wounded.
Violet gets that.
Yeah. She does say that sometimes, though, that Dane killed him.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. That's, interesting sometimes to know, where she's like, yeah, Dane killed him, and then she's like, I killed him. So there's a little bit of back and forth. But nonetheless, he stabbed Varys.
Yeah, he stabbed a leader.
I screamed.
Yeah.
I was like, Dane!
Dane!
Way to go!
I don't hate you as much
We
as I
don't
did.
hate you as much anymore.
Yeah. You still got some development to do,
Mm-hmm.
but you're on the right track.
Major growth in that moment.
And that sets the scene for part 2 with, and Dane as well, as a wing leader, he could have just gone back to his cushy classroom and life as usual, but he helped them show what Violet showed him, and all of the dragons and the cadets go to Orisha because they all see that this is what they're up against outside of the wards. And they're like, no, we want to help out. And so we have Basgaiath at Orisha, and that sets the scene for part 2. And that is it for today. We have a new episode every Tuesday, so be sure to follow us on social media, Main Character Syndrome Pod on TikTok and Instagram, so you never miss an episode. For now, to the readers who listen, we'll see you later.
Bye.